Got Your Back Podstream is brought to you by Kinprint. For all your company's promotional needs, they do it all. Apparel, promotional products using the highest quality brands. They do logo design, signage, and printing. Kinprint will promote your brand with excellence. Visit kinprint.ca.
You got your own mic muted there, Shuggy.
MC, our title sponsors, their Friday the 13th event was fantastic. They sold over 50 cars. Don't know if you were able to get down there or not. 50 cars and trucks. Really, it's an indication of why they have been the number one GMC dealership in the country for 5 years running. Phil and the crew set themselves apart with their process, with their customer service, with their approach to sales. They make it real easy. Visit gmcpod.com for more. Definitely encourage you to go see Phil and the crew. That is Sherwood Buick GMC, as we are coming to you from the newly redesigned Long Shot Studio here in Sherwood Park. What a blast we had last night on location, Struddy, down at Long Shots. Got to see lots of people, lots of listeners came by to say hello. We had lots of sponsors that came by as well. It was a fantastic night on location last night at Long Shots. Brownie, you weren't invited.
Story of my life. Story of my life.
You're too new. You don't get the invite to the cool parties until you're at least halfway through your first season here on the podcast.
B-lister.
Yeah.
Well, I just hung out with Reed. Me and Reed just watched an Oiler game. Talked to the Oiler fans.
Are you guys gonna talk about my situation here? You gonna make a big deal of it? Like you're just gonna act like it's not, you don't even notice it? What's going on behind
different
me,
shirt
around me? No, like look at the amazingness that's happening in the Long Shot Studio.
You're growing a beard.
No, look at my this was my entire day the other day building this new studio and all. Remember those shelves?
I gotta change glasses to see that. Oh, yeah, it looks really good.
There's like no really encouragement. Oh, there's a wide shot. Well, now you can see
fantastic.
Zuby, no, you can see all my calendars and stuff. Cut back there.
Looks great.
That's the way it's supposed to look.
We'll have a meeting about that, I'm sure.
Oh, goodness sake. Zuby, you can appreciate it. You're a technical. Like, this is a significant upgrade, wouldn't you say? We got the Long Shots sign up there, and
the lighting, the accent lighting is what really does it for me. I like the accent lighting, and I like that you've taken out the vertical shelves. We're all 100% horizontal now, and I think it works.
Yep. Struddy, feel free, bud. Like, get off your wallet, man. You paid well to be on the pod, and we have 2 photos hanging on some flooring stuck to your wall.
Whoa, we're getting paid for these? I didn't know that.
Yeah. Until you get invited to a party, you don't get paid.
Yeah, exactly. That's when the paychecks start rolling in. Okay, let's get to our breakdown. Brought to you by Mr. Dirk, the iconic men's clothing store here in town, founded back in 1939. If you've never been, you got to check it out. It's just off White Avenue and 102nd Street. Beautiful shop. All kinds of fantastic clothes. If you want to elevate your suit game, they totally have your back. If you want to elevate your casual game, they got your back there too. Mr. Dirk has all kinds of fantastic clothes. Struds has some hanging in his closet. We need to get him into more because we're still getting the regular complaints into the podcast about Struddy and his wardrobe. So those have not ceased, Struds.
You are not. You're not. You're getting more complaints about your backdrop now.
So in segment number 2, takeaways, Struds, you and I piled on to Evan Bouchard a little bit last night. It was pointed out to me today that maybe a little bit unnecessarily in a couple of cases. So we're going to break down the faults and whether or not it was Evan Bouchard's. Brownie's taking a look. He's going to let us know if we were off base in our criticism on a particular goal last night. That'll be in our next segment. But for right now, Brownie, we haven't had a chance to talk to you here in a couple of games. And we'll hear from the players in the Weiss Johnson soundbox in a minute here too. But Brownie, if you were sort of headlined through 4 games, your analysis of what you're seeing, what would you point to immediately?
Same mistakes. A lot of the things that they talked about after the Vegas series, and this is stuff that Struds has thrown out a number of times in the podcast. They not rolling 4 lines. The power plays playing the whole 2 minutes. They're going with their stars on all the penalty kills. So those are the things they kept talking about. They wanted to be Vegas beat them because Vegas could roll 4 lines. Colorado beat them because Colorado could roll 4 lines. The Oilers aren't. The other thing is they talked about in the playoffs, and a lot of times last year, the Oilers needed to score 5 goals to win. They had too many defensive breakdowns. 3 of the 4 games this year, the Oilers would have needed to score 5+ goals to win them. So it's the same mistakes. It's odd man breaks against. It's misreads, miscommunications. And this is a team that talked in preseason. They came in early, did captain skates. Right from day 1 of training camp, we're putting in new defensive systems, new neutral zone systems. We're going to be a better defensive team. And in 3 of the games, they would have needed 9 goals, 5 goals, and 5 goals to win those hockey games. So to me, same old. It's the same mistakes that they made last year that cost them probably the Vegas series.
Yeah, you know, Brownie's been nailing it. I think, you know, it's interesting. Alan Mitchell today put out a tweet that said, you know, we can discuss whether it's the correct answer is zone or man-to-man in their own zone. But in general, the Oilers don't have the habits. And someone actually retweeted to me and said, you know, Struddy's been talking about this for a while. And I agree. It's just the desire to do it constantly and desire, but also awareness, guys, you know, and that's why I am hesitant to really grade the goalies until we see a more consistent style of play from these guys. There's going to be shots. There's no doubt about it. But even going over the goals last night, I reviewed them. You know, there's at least 2 goals that you didn't have to even happen. You didn't even have a shot against on it. So, you know, you really got to look at it and just that awareness that you have to be thinking defensive even before the other team gets the puck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, for a team that puts so much focus on wanting to defend better as really their top priority heading into the season, it's been a bit of a disaster in terms of, I mean, goals against, defending. A lot of untimely mistakes too, Brownie, from defensemen. Like if you run back through it, you know, a game's either tied or within a goal, and it's, you know, Bouchard's made a few here. Cece's made some. Kulak not tying up sticks. Like Struddy's going to hate this. But I think overall, I think that the D-core is not up to the standard that they finished, anywhere near the standard that they finished the season at last year. And so you've got Ekholm, who didn't have basically any training camp or exhibition season, so he's behind. You got Bouchard, who's off to a pretty brutal start here. Nurse has been ho-hum, you know, okay. I think there are large, important portions of this blue line that are not close to finding their game yet. And the goaltenders have been, you know, they've been up and down too here. It just all equals real rough goals against wise.
Well, I agree. You start looking at some of the goals against. I mean, you didn't even mention the Nurse one who pinches in on a 4-on-3 and gives up a 2-on-0 going back the other way at a very important time. They had just tied the game at that point. The Oilers, things that we saw last year where teams they would be in their own zone, behind their own net, in a set breakout. The D-man would look to the boards, and one of the Oilers defensemen would bite. They'd take 2 steps to the boards, and they'd fire it up the middle, and all of a sudden you're getting breakaways and 2-on-1s. All the teams saw that last year, and we saw that in Philadelphia. How many odd man breaks did they get that started with the puck on the Philadelphia Flyer goal line? Mm-hmm. And they just made a hesitation, looked one way, and the Oilers defenseman bit. Now, I think everybody on the Oilers team is at fault at some point defensively. But you're right, with the defensive decision-making and the misreads, the Oilers are giving up odd man breaks and grade A scoring chances on plays where the team is just trying to get out of their zone. So those are things that need to be cleaned up and need to be cleaned up fast, because every team in the National Hockey League, when someone beats the Oilers, they're watching the video to see how they did it.
Giving up 31 shots a game, 20th in the league. 4.25 goals a game, 30th in the league. Penalty kill is 69%, 28th in the league. Small sample size, and all this is going to change. This team is going to get much better than they are now. There's no question. They're still a playoff team, right? Still every bit the contender that they were 2.5 weeks ago, but they are sputtering out of the gate. And there are some things that they need to get figured out here. And it's an indicator that, for whatever reason, whether it's reading the headlines, not being able to focus, whatever the reason is, they're off to a bit of a nightmare start here. And so now it's about the group, pulling together and trying to find their higher end game. Talk to some of the players today as we'll get here to the Weiss Johnson soundbox, basically asking the question to a few of them: how concerned are you about the quality of play through 4 games? Here's Zach Hyman.
I mean, level of concern low. I think we're pretty confident in this group. Everybody wants to win here. We're just competitive. I would say everybody wants to work hard. We want to go out there and compete. I'd say some of those games, our compete level we were out-competed, and I think that's not systems or anything telling of how we play. That's just a lack of compete, and not a lack of try or want. Just the other team simply outworked us, and it's been that way on a number of occasions. Asked Darnell Nurse the same question, and he took a little bit more of a positive style approach to it.
I mean, if I was concerned 4 games into a season or worried that it's all over, what kind of trust I have in my team and the group that we have here. It's a special group, a group that we know we're capable of more than the way we played so far. That said, we talk about all we want. We just got to come out and play. But
Struddy, what do you take out of that?
Well, I love the fact the way they're talking about, because they're 100% right. Listen, it's 4 games. It hasn't gone the way they want, and I agree with them completely. And they're supporting each other. They're kind of putting up the shields around the team to protect or to insulate themselves, and maybe guys are not quite at the level they want. But I think they also have to kind of strive to find solutions. So I'm sure internally there's a lot of discussion amongst the coaches and players, and even the players and themselves saying, okay, where are we at? What do we got to do better? But I do like that they're really staying together. I think that's really important. No one's firing at cheap shots.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's kind of what you would expect at this point, right? Like they know it's pretty early on too. Brownie, what have you thought of, in particular, Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl so far this season?
Well, it's weird with those two because the bar is different than any other players.
Right.
They're the 2 best players in the world.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah. So you start looking at their stats. Their stats aren't bad. I think, Connor's at 1.5 points a game and Leon's just under 2. I thought last game in Philadelphia may have been one of the poorest games that Connor had giveaways. Connor can go a month without turning the puck over. His passes never seem to miss a stick. And last game, there was 5 or 6 on the power play that he just whiffed on or threw away. So I think that grading them through 4 games on what they're capable of doing, maybe 6.5, 7 of what they're capable of doing. So I don't think they're playing as good as they are, not even as close to as good as they can be. Having said that, they still, I think, isn't Leon still leading the league in scoring and Connor's in the top 5 or whatever it is? So the bar is just so high for those two that the expectations, sometimes we put too much on what they're capable of doing. But yeah, they have not lived up to what they're capable of doing, not yet.
I mean, look at their top, their point getters here. Draisaitl's got 7 points in 4 games. McDavid's got 6 in 4 games. Nugent Hopkins has 6 in 4 games. Zach Hyman has 6 points in 4 games. And Evan Bouchard, who we've talked a ton about, is on a point-to-game pace so far this season. So, but the devil's in the details. And in big moments, each of those players have taken their turn, not necessarily meeting the standard that I think they want to meet. I want to run down lines in practice today, gentlemen. Interesting practice today, 20 minutes. They went out, 20-minute practice, worked on some neutral zone stuff, got some shots, some puck handles in. That was it. Jay Woodcroft skated off the ice, and that was it. Now, travel home last night after a road trip. And I think, I'm not sure if that would have been a day off had they won that game or not, but they're on the ice today. And there were some shifts. So Zach Hyman with Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl. Matthias Janmark with Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Warren Foegele. Evander Kane, Ryan McLeod, and Connor Brown. Adam Ernie, Dylan Holloway at center in the 4 spot, and Derek Ryan on the right side. So Holloway in the middle on the 4th line. Janmark elevated up into, I don't know which one's the top, top 6. We'll just call it the top 9 because I don't know which line is the second line. Janmark, Nugent Hopkins, and Foegele, I guess. And then Kane and Connor Brown, who are both struggling out of the gate, get thrown together on a line with Ryan McLeod. What's your instincts there, Brownie?
Well, it also it shows you when you put Connor and Leon together, like even with the top 6 that the Oilers have now, when they're playing on the same line, the second and third lines do not look near as strong without those two split up. I go back to, I want to see Dylan Holloway in a top 6 role. He obviously doesn't have the trust of the coaching staff yet. The other day, Foegele was up there. Now Janmark's up there. I'd love to see Holloway playing with Nugent Hopkins. I think that would be, I think Holloway's deserved it. I think he's been fairly consistent. I don't see Janmark as a long-term or even a short-term guy to play in the top 6. But the one thing, though, is you look at the third line, Kane has struggled. And we talk about how important certain players on this team are with Connor and Leon and Nuge. Kane is that guy that you expect 30 goals from him. You expect physical play from him. He's a driver just because he plays with attitude. And we haven't seen that out of him yet. And now playing on the third line, probably where he deserves to be right now, because we have not seen what we need out of Evander Kane yet. So will those lines be together for more than one shift next game? Maybe not. But Connor and Leon, I think they do need to split them up because it looks fairly thin in your second and third lines when you can't even tell who their second line is when Connor and Leon are playing together.
I've got a theory on these lines here, Struddy. I got a theory. I think this might be a smokescreen. I don't know how you evaluate
a team that's given up more goals than you. You have to put up a smokescreen.
Well, listen, I'm not saying that I would do this. I'm not saying that this is the right thing to do. I'm just taking everything we know about Jay Woodcroft, and my instinct is that these lines are a smokescreen today and that they won't start the game like this tomorrow. Or to Brownie's point, if they do, it won't last. How do you look at what's gone on among this forward group and think that the answer is to push Dylan Holloway down the lineup? I don't get that. I don't get how you could evaluate what's happened so far and come to that summation. So if you wanted to elevate Dylan Holloway, I wouldn't have practiced him there today, because then for a day and a half, it's Dylan Holloway elevated to the top line. There's pressure. There's media availabilities today, tomorrow. There's a big focus. It's storylines. It's the whole bit. I think it would be pretty shrewd to just throw whatever on the ice today because it was 20 minutes and it doesn't matter. If you're going to put Dylan Holloway on the top line, hide it today. Let him come out of the gate tomorrow night playing with McDavid and Draisaitl. That would make way more sense to me than these lines I'm staring at today.
Yeah, that could be. I think he's the one guy that definitely gets an opportunity to move up. He's played well, and I think they are trying to build his confidence by putting him in places where he can have good moments, right? I think a demotion to the fourth line is a bit past what I would suggest would be the right course of action. But I thought he might get a bump up to play with Leon and Connor. But I think they are trying to build him up, make him feel good. So when he is promoted, whenever that is, and maybe it is tomorrow, but whenever it is, he can feel really good about himself.
Brownie, what do you think? Smoke screen?
Well, I mean, the way you explain it, it makes sense. And I understand that. And that would be a very well thought out plan if that's what they're doing, because you're right. We're talking about Janmark being there right now and doing a podcast on it. So there would be a lot of talk with Holloway if he was moved up to the first or second line. I would, if they want to keep Connor and Leon together for the game tomorrow, fine. But to me, have Holloway with Nugent Hopkins, because as you said, the Oilers are very, very top heavy. And then 2, 3, and 4, I mean, there's not a whole lot different. So I think Holloway deserves some top 6 minutes. Give him 17 minutes in a hockey game. Let him play with one of the stars of this team, see what he's capable of doing. Because what we've seen so far 5-on-5 has not been nearly good enough from the Edmonton Oilers.
Yep, I agree. I think maybe you split up McDavid and Draisaitl tomorrow night. You have Holloway playing on one of those two lines, and I just think it'll be an optional skate tomorrow would be my guess. I think a little bit of a smoke screen here from Jay Woodcroft I could see as happening right now. That was the breakdown brought to you by Mr. Dirk. A reminder that Rob Brown's appearances here on the podcast are brought to you by Kin Print, a local company, family owned. There it is. Decades of promotional experience. Check out kinprint.ca. It was great to see Kevin and the Kinprint family came out to Long Shots last night. Kevin left us a wonderful review on Facebook today. They're awesome partners, and we much appreciate having Kinprint. When we come back, we're going to dig into that shorthanded goal against. Brownie and I kind of hung it around Evan Bouchard's neck last night. Little bit of a revisit on that thought process, though. So, Brownie, we got you to take a few looks at it, and we're going to revisit that goal specifically, as well as hear from Jay Woodcroft on what he's seen from his young defenseman. That's coming up in takeaways. Then we got Struddy's World and Ask Us Anything, where we'll dive in. We got some people joining us on the stream. Throw us your comments. Let us know what you think the line should look like, and we'll get to that and Ask Us Anything. Very short break, and we will be right back.
Hey everyone, it's Kelly here from United Sport and Cycle. The wait is over. United's annual Hockey Day sale is finally here. Save 20% off on select CCM and Bauer skates. Save 35% off on all Bauer and CCM Pro Stock sticks. And save up to 25% off on select Bauer and CCM equipment. And for you goalies, save up to 20% off select Bauer, Warrior, and CCM goal gear. Trust the experts at your home of hockey for over 95 years. United Sport and Cycle.
Are you ready to elevate your moving experience? Trusted for over 100 years, Ferguson Moving and Storage are your partners in relocation, ensuring your journey is smooth and stress-free. And say goodbye to surprises with Ferguson's transparent flat rate pricing. Contact them now for a free moving quote and use a promo code Ferguson to receive $100 off your next move. Visit FergusonMoving.com and let them lift your expectations.
All right, let's get to our takeaways segment brought to you by Dr. Tyler Fix at Redefined Health. If you're feeling unhappy with your overall level of health, you got to try their wellness lifestyle program. It's a unique 90-day program. Here's what you get. You get a meal plan, exercise regimen, video instruction and support, pre and post assessment as well to help you monitor your progress. And they'll do all that for you for $150. Help change the way you are functioning and feeling day to day with Dr. Tyler Fix. Visit redefinedhealth.com and they will hold you accountable, Brownie. You can't just take the exercise package and put it on the shelf and ignore it. Follow the eating recommendations 50-50. Like, you got to actually commit, Brownie, like you did. Well, did you ever while you were playing?
No, of course I didn't. But I probably could use it now. I looked at myself in the mirror this morning naked. It's like, oh my God, there's a it wasn't pretty. It wasn't. I'm getting new mirrors or maybe blacking them out or something.
You got to shower with the lights off. Sugar.
I already do that, Struds. I already
our
do
gem
that.
of the day right there. I looked at myself in the mirror today. That was enough info, but then you throw in the word naked.
Sugar, what day are you
give
on
me
your
Dr. Fix's number, quick.
90-day journey? What day are you on, Sugar? Your 90-day journey with Dr.
I'm on like -8. I'm building up to it. Like in the next week, buddy.
Pre-Christmas goals.
A pretty good elliptical workout yesterday. I'm not gonna lie to you. This might be day one for me. The leaf might have turned over already, fellas.
You see a lot of exercise machines at garage sales, but ellipticals are number one. Number one on the top of the list. It's up there.
I have a good one downstairs.
Must be rich people. They got an elliptical.
I actually have a good one downstairs, and it has a fair number of kilometers on it. Like I would say, it's lightly used. I would say after 6 years.
Yeah.
Okay. Nobody cares about any of this. What they do care about is what the heck happened last night, and lots of discussion about Evan Bouchard, right? And Struds, listen, we are not above criticism here on the podcast, right? Was pointed out to me today by a couple of people that might have hung Evan Bouchard out to dry a little bit on that shorthanded goal against.
Okay.
Odd man rush, kind of coming at him. You and I last night, we basically made this. I mean, you explain your thought process to Rob Brown. We basically figured he needed to be a little more aggressive in playing that odd man rush. And while it wasn't a great goal by Jack Campbell to allow, maybe preventable there had Bouchard been more aggressive, Struds.
Yeah, so I see a right shot player come down the left wing. I don't want that stick on the inside. It makes it a pretty nice angle for him to come to. Bouchard also had inside protection. You know, Nuge was there. He was on the inside of his play he was going. So I felt that Bouchard could have pushed him out at least outside the dots to make that a hotter angled shot. If it's a lefty coming down the left side, it's a different conversation. But I think he could have slid over, pushed over more because he had the inside protection from Nuge on the other player. Now, there was a late flyer coming late, but I'm not sure the D-man on a shorthanded play is going to throw it backwards when they're down one man.
Right. So, and I shared that opinion with you. We hit that on the podcast last night. There's no debating the mistake on the first two mistakes that we had discussed, but maybe a little bit open for debate upon further reflection today, Struds. I asked around, chatted with a few people. I've maybe come around on this a little bit, but I'm not going to make a firm stance yet until I know what Rob Brown thinks. So, Brownie, we had you look at it. You did some homework. You can be the ultimate arbiter on this one. What say you, Brownie?
Well, obviously the first mistake was the giveaway, but that happens all the time. So when they give it to Couturier, makes a nice play on the stealing the puck from Connor McDavid, and then gives a little.
Sounds like he's letting the steel guy off the hook here, Struddy.
Yeah. No, it was a bad play by McDavid.
I already know the answer.
No. So then Couturier makes a nice play. Walker jumping up.
Yeah.
They have a 2-on-1 to start with, and that's what Bouchard sees. Sees a 2-on-1 coming at him. Nugent Hopkins does a great job. Fantastic job getting on his horse and getting back. And by the blue line, it's now a 2-on-2. The problem that starts to happen is when Connor McDavid turned the puck over, he stood there. Couturier, who made the little pass, he stood too. And all of a sudden, Couturier looks around and is like, nobody's back checking.
Yeah.
He jumps into the play. So now when Bouchard looks up, first he sees a 2-on-1. So he backs off and he's inside the blue line. Then he sees 2-on-2. Now all of a sudden he sees a third man Couturier coming because McDavid didn't pick him up. Now it's a 3-on-2. And I think that stopped Bouchard from being aggressive.
Interesting.
So he doesn't see a guy coming. So McDavid is late getting back. It's a 3-on-2. Now, having said all of that, you also got to read the play and the situation.
Right.
It's Scott Walker coming up. Scott Walker is a defensive defenseman.
But Bouchard wouldn't be expected to know the guy by his face. It's not
yes,
like
you, at 100%. 100%.
That's the job.
100%. You know who that guy is. Yep. You know exactly every player. So Bouchard knows that's Walker. He says, okay, Walker, I'm going to force him. So as they get closer to the tops of the circle, at that point, Bouchard has got to make some sort of motion towards Walker. Right. A, as Strud says, push him outside a little bit. B, if you want to make that pass, but I'm forcing you to do something. Bouchard just went straight back. And Walker, who is, again, a defensive defenseman, makes the simple play for him. He skates all the way in and shoots the puck. So to me, McDavid not jumping on his horse, getting back, turned a 2-on-2 situation into a partial 3-on-2. If McDavid jumps back, Couturier doesn't jump in the play. The only reason he jumps in is because, hey, no one's here. So I think all of a sudden Bouchard's reading 2-on-1, then reading 3-on-2, so he never gets aggressive. And because of that, Walker just walks straight down Main Street and fires. And then the last one, I mean, if you're a Flyer fan, you're saying great shot. If you're an Oiler fan, you're saying Campbell's got to have it.
So order of blame, McDavid 1, Campbell 2, Bouchard 3?
No, I say McDavid not getting back, then Bouchard. I think Bouchard has to be a little more aggressive.
Yeah.
And then Campbell's 3. I mean, to me, it was a great shot. Sometimes average defensive defenseman.
Yeah.
I mean, Struds has had a couple. He had 9 or 11 great shots in his career too.
Yeah.
Great shots. Rebounds. Mostly rebounds.
So Struddy, has he changed your mind at all? Listen, I asked around a little bit today. I'm not going to say who because it was kind of off camera, probably off the record conversations with people that are very much in the mix and got some second opinions. And looked at it a few times when I got home, and I thought, some pretty fair points that are made there.
Yeah.
That there were maybe other culprits on that goal ahead of it. So I'll let Evan Bouchard a little bit more off the hook than I did last night on the podcast. I think we're not above saying that maybe we were a little too hard on him. Struds, you sticking to your guns though?
I just think when I look at it, it's, I always think, well, could the D done differently? And I always believe I wanted the guy to shoot from outside the dots, and he isn't able to do that when he had the inside protection. So let's just say that the puck is thrown back from Walker to Couturier. Nuge is on the inside. Nuge could stop and put some pressure on Couturier. Couturier's not walking right down Main Street, right? And you got to remember, it's a 5-on-4 against a really dangerous power play. So the last thing Flyers want is to have 3 players trapped up there. So, like, I get all those things, but I'm just thinking, if it was me, how I would have played. And I would have been on the power play. So I would have stopped both teams from scoring. But, you got to look at it and think, what is the most likely outcome? Is Walker going to make a backhand pass backwards behind him when he's trying to kill a penalty? That's not a very common play for a guy on a penalty kill, especially not a super skill player. So I think that I still put Bouchard 1, McDavid 2, and I'll put Campbell 3, because I don't think the play should ever happen.
I think that's that's
a great point, Struds.
Yeah, go ahead. Brian.
Again, that's great play. It's Walker. I think you have to read the play that it's Walker carrying it up. If it is Couturier or one of another skilled, or if you're playing against the Canucks, if that's Pettersson coming up, anyone like that, you play it different. But you see it, Scott Walker. I mean, he's not making a fancy play. He had, from the moment he picked that puck up, Scott Walker at his own blue line was shooting that puck 100%.
Let's get to the Weiss Johnson sound box. Heating and air conditioning, they're experts in. Time to get that garage heated up before winter. Enjoy the luxury of a warm vehicle or heated man cave this winter. Installing a garage heater will also help if you have rooms over the garage that are always a little bit chilly too. So check out Weiss-Johnson.com. I've got the heater in the garage, put it in last year. Absolutely loved it. Was worth every penny. So give them a shout over at Weiss Johnson. Jingle.
Weiss Johnson, whoa.
Ask Jay Woodcroft about Evan Bouchard today, what he sees in his game. And he was careful with his answer. He did talk specifically about his play, but I heard a coach who was willing to discuss it to a point without throwing his player too far under the bus and then grouping the whole group in there. I think Woodcroft played this smart, but he also told us something about Bouchard's play.
His game begins with his puck movement. So I actually think he can move pucks a little bit at a sharper rate than he has so far, and that's not something I wouldn't tell him personally. I believe that. I think that's where his confidence comes from, is puck moving ability. I think there's some situations, like with everybody on our team, Evan's not alone in that situation, where we can be harder in some situations.
So he says, I feel like that's where his confidence comes from, in his puck moving ability. Struds, do you buy that a lot of what's going on this season is Bouchard not being as efficient as he normally is moving the puck, and some lack of confidence deriving from that?
Well, it could be. I mean, you look at it, you always go back when you're a player, when you don't feel like your game's 100%, you go back to what you're really good at, right? So let's say a guy like Kane, it's shooting and being physical and getting emotionally involved, right? Maybe Connor Brown is just being a worker bee, being hard on pucks, trying to take pucks to the net. And then the rest of your game flows from there. So I do think that Bouchard is the best passing defenseman on the Oilers. Makes great plays, and I think when he's on that, it makes a difference. To Jay Woodcroft's point about holding on to the puck too long, you look at the second goal last night against Philly, he gets it, and he's just kind of, he's not really sure, and there's no urgency to it. He doesn't make a quick play up the ice or to Ekholm. Ekholm actually was out of position, to pass a little more blame around, since I'm doing the blame game. But I think that for him, it is just quick puck movement, get it going better. But I think there are other parts of his game that he can also kind of fall back on and say, okay, I'm going to be a little bit more stout defensively here when the opportunity comes up.
Brownie, he's pretty far from his, man, you think about the player that he was from the trade deadline in last season, man. I still think this player, people want to say that he's young. Experience-wise, I don't feel that he's that young, but he's young enough, Brownie, that's like some players are still so susceptible to the ebbs and flows of the confidence game. You know what they're capable of. You're confused as to why they're not doing it. Chances are the answer is nothing but confidence. And I think Bouchard is that player and that person.
I agree. I think he's a guy that wears his emotions on his sleeves. He's a lot like Campbell was last year. If Campbell let in a bad goal, it affected him. He couldn't put it away. He couldn't flush it, as they say. And I think when you watch a game early in a game, if Bouchard makes a poor play, especially one defensively, you can just watch his body language as he goes to the bench, the facial expression, and then it bothers him the next couple of shifts, and it just throws him off his game. And then it starts bleeding into other parts of his game. If he makes a bad pass, well, now the next shift he's a little down. Now he gets beat, and now that affects him. And now he can't make that good pass on the power play. So yeah, he's a guy confidence-wise or emotion-wise. When things don't go his way early, it affects him. And there's other players. If Connor McDavid has a bad shift, gives the puck away, the next shift comes out, I'm going to beat 3 guys this shift. He gets mad. He gets angry. Or Kane, if he has a bad shift, he'll run somebody. The problem for Bouchard is his game, if it's going sideways, it doesn't seem to find its way back in that 60-minute stretch.
All right. That was Takeaways brought to you by Redefined Health. Lots more to come here on the podcast. Getting some really good questions in on the stream, some new faces on the stream, putting in some good comments. So Zuby is in the background gathering those. That'll be in our Ask Us Anything segment tonight after the break, Struddy's World. So stick with us. Lots more to come here after a short break.
If you own or operate a business, you know the value of a great employee. Just ask Schauger. Pathfind is here to help you find your next star player to help take your business to the next level. Pathfind can help with recruitment, career transition, leadership coaching. They truly have your whole team covered. Building you a championship caliber roster. Find your team's path forward at pathfind.ca.
Long Shots Golf is the destination for both golf enthusiasts and sports fans. Top-of-the-line TrackMan simulators provide a highly entertaining and accurate golf experience, while a full-service sports bar loaded with big screens and scratch kitchen make it a truly unique destination. They have locations in Sherwood Park and Edmonton. Experience the best indoor golf and sports bar in town. Visit longshots.ca. That's longshots with a Z.ca.
When you make a mistake, heads should roll. It's not right. And I'm here. Someone has to put their foot down. Now that I say it out loud, it does sound a little crazy.
God, I look good.
Yes, time for everybody's favorite segment. Well, a lot of people's favorite segment. You've been getting chirped pretty hard for all the lawn care tips. JL is in on the stream today and says, is it snow removal tips for Struddy's World today? No, JL. It's not snow removal. Struddy's going to dig into some meat and potatoes on Struddy's World today, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Locations in Calgary and in Edmonton. They provide beautiful maintenance-free vinyl fencing and decking materials. And if you've never had maintenance-free product, you have to invest and do it, because there's no more paint, no more sanding, no more staining. It goes in. It's beautiful the day it goes in, and it stays that way. Basically, just pressure wash it every year or two, and that's about it as far as maintenance goes. So check out dlrvinylproducts.ca. Great time of year to start looking into it, whether you plan it late this year or want to get a head start on it next year. Call Rick here in Edmonton or Rob out in Calgary. That's dlrvinylproducts.ca. Struddy, we can talk about a little bit of maybe what Darnell Nurse had to say today and a little bit of what's ailing the group.
Yeah. So, Schauger asked a good question to Darnell Nurse. Is the new systems, is it kind of making it hard for the team? And he said, no, we're all professionals. We should be able to sort it out. But I'll tell you what, old Uncle Struddy's got the answer. So throw another log on the fire, turn up the transistor radio, and I'm going to tell you exactly what is going on with the Oilers. Last year, the last couple of years have been great for the Oilers. Obviously, it's been fun getting to the third round and the second round, both times, unfortunately, losing to the would-be Stanley Cup champions. After the series, they talked about being Stanley Cup or bust. They were all upset about the way they played. And you're going to feel that way. Like, they think they're a Stanley Cup winning team. I would agree. I think they're very close to one of the top teams in the league when they're playing the right way. They got back here early. They're all, ready to go and gung-ho to go. But I think the problem with this group, and this is where it gets important, I believe that they are looking too far ahead. They're looking at game 83. they're forgetting about the process of game 1 to 82. There's going to be ups and downs, but I think that they came to this season thinking, okay, well, we're just going to kind of get ready, and we're going to get ready later in the year and get going for the playoffs. This team is capable of much more individually and collectively as a group. That is, I believe that goes right from both goalies all the way up to the coaching staff. Everyone can do more, but I think that they have forgotten there is a road to the playoffs, and you have to do things step by step and right. Unfortunately for the Oilers, I think it's a bit of they're getting a bit of a wake-up call right now. You know, you've heard the guys talk about it. Everyone gets up for us. You know, we're one of the better teams. We have two of the best players of the world, if not the two best. And I really think, guys, that they are looking ahead, and they've forgotten the process that got them to where they did the last couple of years. It's going to take a little while to dig out of this, but I do think this is a true feeling, because you can see it. They're not firing. They're not going where they need to be yet. And it's a dangerous spot to be in, boys. But good thing is, it's better find out now than at game 82.
And so, Brownie, the thing that's interesting about this to me is that, you know, they go through the captain's gates and they go through training camp and the season previews, and all the prognosticating is happening. And they were picked widely to either make the Stanley Cup final or to hoist the Stanley Cup. I've never seen these types of prognostications in my 24 years covering this team. This was as heavily touted a group as I'd ever seen. Now, even if they were trying to focus on the moment, there were questions coming every day about those expectations and such. And is it human nature to, with all of that being thrown in your face nonstop, to have your mind go there a little bit? So was it the outside world, or was it these guys looking too far ahead?
Well, I got to be honest. Whenever Struddy's World comes on, that's when I check my emails. So I'm not sure what Struddy said.
Brownie's hate for Struddy's World is one of my favorite things on this podcast. He is jealous.
I agree, though, from what I heard Struds was trying to say. The Oilers want to get back to the fun games. And the fun games are the playoff games.
Well said.
And they feel that they're very, very close, and they feel like they missed an opportunity last year. And I do agree that right now they're kind of hopping over everything that they need to do to get back to there, because this is a playoff team. Barring some major injury, this is a playoff team. No matter how they start the season, they could lose the next 4 games. They're still making the playoffs because they are good enough. But yeah, I do think that they are losing focus on what's happening today, because their focus is on game 83. Now, also, there are all these questions, all the accolades, everyone talking about them. It does get in your head. It's human nature. You keep, and people say, no, I don't read the paper. I don't watch TV. Every one of them knows exactly what's being said everywhere. So I think it's a bit of both. I think maybe they weren't expecting it to be as hard as it is. And I think some of the guys, or the team as a whole, they're already planning on how they're going to beat Colorado, how they're going to beat Vegas, how they're going to beat Dallas. And some of these games don't seem as important as they are. And I think it's a wake-up call that adversity is good. It's good to feel adversity right now. The Boston Bruins last year, first time they felt adversity was in game 6 and 7 of the playoffs. It didn't go well for them. So the Oilers are facing adversity very early in the season, and they'll correct it.
Yeah, well said, Brownie.
Well, thank you.
Well said for a guy, obviously stole all my ideas, but I just think it's important to note that it is, you know, and you talk about the playoff hangover when you win Stanley Cup. I think the Oilers have a little bit of that hangover, just
second round exit hangover.
Well, just as far as they're looking like they haven't talked once about the regular season. They're talking about, we got to get back to the playoffs. We're going to be ready. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. We're going to do that better. And they're not. It's unfortunately, there is a process to this, and I get it. I remember playing against Stanley Cup champions early in the year, and they looked like they weren't even trying. I'm like, God, we're actually pretty good. Then we play them in game 75 and they would whip us. You know what I mean? Or just you'd be blown out. And like, oh, that they are pretty good, you know? So there is that part of it. So, you know, I hear the guys talk about it, you know, that, you know, they're not concerned. And I agree, like they're a very good team, but I think that the process has to be revisited, you know, and a lot of teams do it already, but you break it down to 5-game segments. Let's win every 5-game segment, right? 3 games out of 5. That's our goal. So, you know, they have a game against Winnipeg tomorrow that is, you know, giving up more goals than the Oilers against. So just think about that. And then after that, we want to give every 5 games a 3-game series moving forward and narrow the focus.
You know, you talk about a 5-game segment. Like, I've been covering Jay Woodcroft since the day he got here, and that guy talks one day at a time. Like he will not look ahead because, if his players hear him looking ahead, then it kind of flies in the face of the message that we know he's delivering back there, which is take care of today. He always says it, take care of today, win today. What is it? Practice, do it well. What is it? Fly home and rest, win that battle. This is not a lack of messaging from the head coach. He is trying to drill this into their heads to take it day by day by day. I think the players, in fairness, as a guy standing there asking them these questions, Struds, they're trying to answer the questions that we're asking them. So look, you're picked by a lot of people. How does that pressure feel? The players are being cordial and trying to ask those questions. So I don't so much read into what they're saying, media-wise, but I do think this is a lot human nature, though. Don't you think, Struds, that human nature plays a lot into this? It's tough not to look past some of this when the bread and butter is very much in the playoffs. A lot like the Leafs last year, right? It was so much about just win a damn series.
Yeah, and I agree. Listen, I don't actually think that these guys are, because people are going to put words on saying that, they're feeling too good about themselves. They're too cocky. I think it's what Brownie says. I think they're looking ahead to the fun time of the year. They want to get, they're so focused on winning. So this isn't an indictment on the players or their preparation. I believe they worked out like crazy this summer. I think they're prepared. They're all ready to go, but they're preparing too far down the road. But this is why I like the 5-game segments. And I personally liked it as a player because you'd say, what are our goals these next 5 games? It could be power play, penalty kill, goals against, chances against per period, all that stuff. So then it kind of, it like a one day at a time, I get what Jay's saying, but you got to look a little bit ahead, and do a 5-game segment. So then you can revisit it after that 5th game and say, just put it on the wall. You don't have to say anything. Just say, this is what we did. This is the goals we met. Then there's finite things you're going after within that block of games.
Yeah, and they may do that internally. Like, we don't know.
Sure.
I mean, just because he hasn't said it to us publicly doesn't mean they don't do it internally. I just know he drives that message home over and over and over again. The Oilers might need some cranberry sauce added to their diet, says some stranger who is obviously a regular here on the podcast and knows Struddy's take on cranberry sauce. That was Struddy's World, brought to you by DLR Vinyl Products. Zuby, fire up the Weiss Johnson YouTube mentions, and let's get to Ask Us Anything, brought to you by Match Eatery and Public House. Happy hours better at Match Pub Ice District. 20% off appies, half price wine and other drink specials every day, 2 to 4 p.m. Every day, 2 to 4 p.m., located adjacent to Rogers Place in the Grand Villa Casino. For more information, check out matchpub.com. Zuby, we have some new people in on the stream. Freezer Bag has been a big presence in there. Some familiar faces. Ahmed, Davin, the group are back. What's everybody saying, man?
He has. We'll get to Freezer Bag in a minute. Let me start with JL, a familiar face, or a familiar name anyway. Do you think the slow start could be attributed to such a relaxed schedule to start? It's like they have too much time to relax and have no focus.
Ooh, guys, Brownie?
That's a good point. It is. And normally when a season starts, you want to get right into it. Bang, 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 every second night, especially if you have a slow start, because now you've got 3 days to think of that 8-1 beaten. And then you have a okay game, then you have another 3 days off before the next one. So yeah, I think a slow start. When you're playing over and over and over again, the focus is much better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was always frustrated how you had a slow kind of schedule in October, and then you just pile on later on the year, like 15 games in 30 days or whatever. Like I get it. There's other things to watch, but I was always frustrated by that.
Hold the phone, Zuby. We got a Joaquin Gage sighting on the stream here.
Oh boy.
Did you catch that? Gager, see you all at match tonight, says Gager. So I don't know. Is there some sort of business card signing that was set up, or an autograph signing, or do people ask Gager for his autograph? I don't know. Does that happen
50.
to him?
Then he turned 50. I was shocked to find out he wasn't already 50.
I thought he was 60. You sure it wasn't 60?
Well, maybe it was.
I think I used to watch him when I was a kid playing. Didn't he play back in the Oil Kings back in the old days?
Oh, Gager, we love you, buddy. Thanks for jumping in on the stream. You're doing a great job over at Edmonton Sports Talk. Quaddy chimes in. Islanders have only played 2 games, 2-0. So just to sort of slash back at that last point, Zuby, what's next, buddy?
Freezer Bag says, this is a maybe touchy subject. He says, everyone's scared to question Connor's effort. In my opinion, he isn't pushing the pace like they need him to be, just being honest. That's his opinion.
Interesting. And then he followed up by saying, what did he say? He criticized the media. I feel like the media is scared to say it, he also said. So listen, I'll just speak for myself. I'm not scared to say it. If I think McDavid isn't working hard enough, happy to say it. I don't know that it's so much working hard. I tend not to question McDavid's effort a ton. I just think there are some nights where he works smarter than other nights. And I think there are some nights where he directs his efforts in a more on-point, intelligent way. I do think that the player is working hard, but he gets a little bit paralyzed sometimes when things don't go well. He gets caught watching for just a minute when things aren't going well. And I think that's what we saw on the back check there that night. But I don't know, guys. Struds, is he being lazy?
I have a hard time criticizing Connor McDavid with anything about lazy. I think he's very prepared and works very hard. I think it's going to have to be a big change for me to start criticizing his work ethic. I think that's one guy that of the whole team, he's probably the last guy I want. His desire, I think it burns pretty hot. I'm not sure that there's anyone that burns hotter than.
Well, I think if anything, he tries too hard.
Yeah,
I think when he gets himself into trouble, he's trying to do too much because things aren't going right. So he puts more on his plate and says, okay, if things aren't going this way, I'm just going to go out and do more. And that's what gets him into trouble. His effort level, I don't know if there's a player in the National Hockey League that works harder than Connor McDavid.
Yeah, I think if you were to put the cameras away and get into a casual conversation with him and say, look, what do you think of your game so far, Connor? He'd probably say, some good, some bad. I haven't been as effective as I want to be. I mean, I need to make a difference more often at key moments and haven't been as effective as I want to be. I don't know that it's necessarily a work ethic issue, but again, Quady comes in and says he set his own standard and he's not close to it so far. Hey, that's not entirely unfair. Connor McDavid has set a very, very high standard and he hasn't met his own standard so far this season. But Freezerbag, thank you for the comments and trying to keep us media honest. Respectfully disagree, but fair points by you. Zuby, what else?
How about, it's a small sample size, but your guys' individual assessment of Connor Brown to this point, 4 games, maybe a letter grade.
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll put
Look
him
at
at
you
a C.
two being so polite. I'm going to go.
Yeah.
I'm going. Both of you shut it. If you guys can't sort it out, I'll go.
Go ahead.
I think letter grade in terms of what Connor Brown can be, or letter grade in terms of everything that he's been up against, right? I mean, Leon Draisaitl, when we talked to him about Connor Brown before the season, he's like, I think we need to give this guy a couple months. Missing as much as he missed, I think for a player like this is really, really tough. And it shows you the difference between preseason and regular season. Because remember how good he looked in preseason? Well, now it's up to full speed and it's not even close. So I'm going to say my expectations of Connor Brown versus what he's given, I'll say a B-. I think he's been about what I expected, which is a guy that works hard and skates hard and is having trouble finding the hands and the timing. So B-.
I honestly would say the exact, everything you said there was true. I think the effort is there. I think the desire is there. I just think right now he's trying to find the speed of the game. That's after a year off, it's a fast game, best in the world. So I would go B- as well.
Yeah, I'd probably go C. And I think that he's exactly as I thought. He works really hard, and I love that. But trying to make plays and getting to know new players. I know he played with Connor, but it wasn't like they played together last year. So it's a lot of new players he's trying to figure out, find his place on the team, and worry about his new body, or his body part that has been readjusted. So C isn't a bad thing. I think he's just trying to figure out, catch all that up. I think you're looking at 10, 20 games to get this guy going.
His body part, his new body part, eh?
I got it fixed up. You know what I mean? He's got to get.
Last time I was on the air with you, you've seen a lot of men in the shower, and now you're talking about Connor's body part.
I got stopped by a lot of people about that comment. A lot of people like that one.
Yeah,
you don't know why.
You had one last night too. You were like something about the Golden Girls. You made some.
Yeah.
You made some. I don't know.
It was a hit. The Golden Girls was a hit. I said was Golden Girls. It was a hit. I love the Golden Girls.
I love the Golden Girls too, but I was so confused by that reference too, because referring to the Golden Girls, anything about other than people being old, was strange to me. That's where I figured you were going. It was a hit, but that's
Seinfeld or Friends or Lost. I mean, those are hits. Why go back to the 80s for a hit?
Golden Girls was a hit. I love that show. He used to love it.
No,
Blanche.
you adjusted on the fly. You did not intend to say that. You screwed
nailed
up,
it.
and then you tried to fix it by making up a metaphor.
I stand by that and my breakdown of the shorthanded goal for the Flyers last night.
Freezer Bag says I didn't say lazy. Fair enough, Freezer Bag. You did not say that in your description. I sort of summarized with that word, so that wasn't fair. Zuby, let's do 2 more, and then we all got to go have some dinner, so let's land the plane here.
Okay, quick follow-up on the Connor Brown thing. Is there any world in which Connor Brown doesn't make it to that 10-game contract threshold based solely on his performance? Or was that 100% for injury?
His
That's the
former
same
agent is running the club. No.
Can't sit him for 70 games.
Yeah, you're not gonna, barring some sort of injury or something like that. But no, people need to not get cold feet on Connor Brown yet.
No.
The most painful that Connor Brown is going to be as an Oiler is next season when he's not here and he still counts against the cap. Right, that's when it's going to be. Connor Brown will be painful as an Oiler. Right now, he's working his way through having missed an entire season, and it's going to take him a little bit of time. And that's why I give him a B-, because I expected this from Connor Brown right now. Now, if this were a completely healthy Connor Brown, I would have graded like Grandma Struddy there and given him a C. I think you were a little hard on him, but I expected this.
Okay. He's not Golden Girls yet. He will be. Someday he'll be Golden Girl.
All right, Zuby, what do we got to finish off?
Okay, last one. Matt Bird says, who's going to be more desperate tomorrow, Oilers or Jets?
I'd say the Oilers need to be, because expectations versus results so far, not even close. Back home, they got to get on the right side of this, and they got to do it fast. So for me, it's the Oil.
I'll go Jets. They're having trouble putting fans in the stands. It is. You heard the comments from other teams that there's not a lot of fans in the stands. That's a scary moment for that franchise. So I think they're going to be very desperate to bring an A game tomorrow.
I think both teams will be desperate. I do believe the Oilers will be more desperate. Simply, it's a home game, and they have not had the start of the season that they wanted to, and they got the world of Oiler fans on them right now. The expectation is much higher than what they've produced, so I believe the Oilers are going to be the more desperate team.
All right, that was Ask Us Anything, and a huge thanks to all of you for your contributions on the stream. Welcome, Freezer Bag, if we haven't seen you before. That was Ask Us Anything, brought to you by Match Eatery and Public House. Our final segment, the Day, is our Gem the Day, brought to you by United Sport and Cycle. Had a good chat with Kelly today. We were just, dissecting what's going on with the Oilers. Expert advice for every sport. Their store is full of passionate sports fans, volunteers, coaches, athletes, ready to help you with everything you need for the sport that you love. You really notice that when you're in there, you ask for help. Their people know what they're talking about, and they're incredibly helpful. Check out why they're Edmonton's favorite location for everything sports. www.unitedsport.ca. Struddy, I've got my thought on the Gem of the Day, but you can go ahead and weigh in with yours.
Sure, it came in early in the pod. I had a great workout on elliptical today. Ryan Rishaug.
Come on.
I've never heard anyone say that before.
That's not Gem of the Day material.
Because I want Gem of the Day. I got
Okay.
one. I got
Go
one.
ahead.
I'm not sure if I'm allowed to
Can't
vote,
do
but I get Gem of
two.
the Day.
We'll have to charge United double for the pod.
Okay.
Sorry, Kelly. Charging you double. We got 2 gems happening. Go ahead, Brownie.
But mine was earlier in the podcast when Struds was going on and said, somebody retweeted to me something that I said, and I have to totally agree with that. You just agreed with yourself. I got to agree with myself.
What's the matter? Yeah, Struddy.
It
You're
was a
weird
good
on
thing,
Twitter,
though.
man. You're
It
present
was.
on Twitter.
So well said. Who said it? Oh, I did.
Should we quadruple charge United, Zuby? Should we go for the quad here? What was your Gem of the Day, Zoobs?
I have to tip my hat to Brownie. We'll make it only 3 because I thought the exact same thing when Strutz thought he was exactly right on his own retweet. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, no, you guys have all completely missed the boat. The Gem of the Day today by a mile was Rob Brown saying, I was looking at myself in the mirror today, naked. And that to me was the moment that will stay with me for the rest of the evening.
I can dig it.
Good job today, Brownie. Really appreciate it. Just a quick programming note. We want more Rob Brown on the podcast, so we're kind of moving some things around from our regularly scheduled programming because it's a late game Saturday night. We're not going to do a post-game stream Saturday, but we are going to do a Sunday night pod recapping the weekend. We love the Sunday night pods and the live stream, so check it out on Sunday. Brownie, great to see you again.
Who said we
Good
wanted
seeing you
more Rob
guys.
Brown? Who said that? I didn't say that. Did I get a
People.
vote?
You wouldn't
people-
believe my DMs, Struds, and it's not just about wanting more Rob Brown. It's about wanting less of other things.
I've never voted for that. We'll have a vote. Let's have another vote.
You don't get a vote.
Let's check my Twitter. What have I said on tweets lately? Let's see what it said.
Big thanks to our sponsors, including our title sponsor, Sherwood Buick GMC. Go see Phil and the crew for a great buying experience. Huge thanks to them and the rest of our sponsors, and to you for your downloads and your subscriptions. By the way, if you're interested in potentially sponsoring Got Your Back, you can send us an email, gybpod@gmail.com. That's gybpod@gmail.com. We'll chat on Sunday night. Enjoy your Friday and your weekend. Cheers.